Hello there, and welcome to Deep Space Sleep. I'm so glad you're here tonight. Before the world grew loud, before cities lit the horizon, the ocean was already here, calm, endless, and breathing in its own quiet rhythm. It has always been the softest place on Earth, a world where sound fades, light drifts like silk, and time slows until you can almost feel your heartbeat sinking with the tides. Every wave is a gentle reminder that you're allowed to let go. Every ripple carries the softness of millions of years. The ocean holds memories older than mountains. It cradles the first sparks of life, whispers with shifting currents, and glows with bioluminescent stars when night settles over its surface. Above, moonlight paints silver paths across the water. Below, colours fade into tranquil blue, and then into the comforting dark where creatures move with slow, peaceful grace. Tonight, we're going to drift through that world, through warm shallows where sunlight dances on sand, through twilight zones full of glowing life, and down into quiet depths where the ocean holds its deepest secrets. Nothing here rushes, nothing demands. It's just you, the tide, and the soft pulse of a planet that never stops breathing. Before we begin, feel free to tell me where you're listening from tonight, and what time it is where you are. Your words help other dreamers find this calm corner of the world, floating together beneath the same sky. For now, let your breath slow, let your shoulders soften, and let the soundless blue rise gently around you. Let's begin. The first oceans were born from rain that fell for millions of years, drifting down from thick, ancient clouds in a world still cooling from its fiery origins. These early raindrops were warm, heavy, and filled with minerals carried from volcanic air. They gathered slowly in the lowest places on Earth, forming shallow pools that grew wider and deeper with every passing century. The sound of this endless rainfall must have been like a soft curtain of whispering water covering the whole planet. As the ground cooled further, more rain collected, linking lakes together into vast stretches of early sea. Nothing rushed, nothing surged. It was a gentle filling, a long exhale after the planet's birth. And in that slow, patient accumulation, the first cradle of life quietly took shape beneath a sky still glowing faintly from Earth's beginning. Ancient clouds wrapped the young Earth like a thick blue-grey blanket, formed from steam rising continuously from volcanic plains. These clouds were dense and heavy, drifting low and slow across the entire surface of the planet. They filtered sunlight into a soft, diffused glow, turning the world into a quiet sphere of pale turquoise haze. The air was warm, moist, and incredibly still, as if the planet itself were resting after the turbulence of its formation. Within these massive cloud layers, countless droplets merged and separated, preparing to fall as the rains that would fill the first oceans. The entire atmosphere felt like a soft breathing chamber, surrounding the globe with moisture and calm. These ancient clouds created the blue veil that would become iconic of Earth itself, a calm, protective shroud that helped shape the oceans below. As the early Earth cooled, steam rising from countless volcanic vents drifted upward and condensed into droplets that merged into long sheets of rain. This condensation happened slowly and continuously, forming enormous storm systems that moved gently across the globe. Every droplet that fell carried traces of minerals from the atmosphere, beginning the long process of shaping the chemistry of the oceans. These early waters pooled in vast basins, growing deeper with each passing millennium. The cycle repeated endlessly, water rising as vapor, cooling, and returning as rain, building oceans drop by drop. This gentle loop helped stabilize the planet's temperature and created the perfect environment for the earliest forms of life. These primordial oceans were not yet blue, they were warm, cloudy, and softly shimmering with suspended minerals, like ancient mirrors forming under a young sky. The first seawater was warmer than modern oceans, heated from below by a still active mantle and from above by a young sun. This warmth allowed minerals from volcanic rock to dissolve easily, filling the oceans with nutrients that made the water rich and dense. The seas were not yet the clear blue we know. Instead, they had a soft, milky quality, glowing faintly under diffuse sunlight. This mineral-rich water became a gentle incubator, creating a perfect environment for chemical reactions that would eventually spark life. Heat circulated through the oceans in slow, steady currents, keeping them in constant motion without turbulence. The warmth of these early seas created a sense of timelessness, comparable to a warm bath enveloping the entire planet, encouraging the first whispers of biological possibility. The young oceans reflected the sky above like quiet, shimmering mirrors, with clouds filtering sunlight into pale blues and soft greys. The surface of the water took on the same gentle hues, creating a world that felt wrapped in a single colour. Ripples moved slowly across the surface, catching light in delicate patterns like silk sheets stirred by a breeze. These early seas were calm, lacking strong winds or storms, and their stillness allowed the sky's light to settle softly upon them. When volcanic ash drifted down, it sprinkled the surface with fine dust that sparkled briefly before sinking. The ocean did not just mirror the sky, it completed it, creating the first true landscapes of peace on Earth. In that reflective stillness, the planet began to find its rhythm. The newborn continents were soft in their own way, made of rock still cooling and easily worn down by the earliest waves. These were not crashing waves like today, but gentle laps of warm water brushing against young shorelines. Each touch carried tiny grains loosened from volcanic cliffs, slowly shaving down jagged edges into softer curves. Over thousands of years, these quiet waves carved bays, smoothed beaches, and shaped the edges of the first landmasses. The process was slow, patient, and continuous, like a long lullaby of water shaping stone. As the continent shifted and rose, the waves followed them, always smoothing, always calming, creating coastlines that grew more tender with time. In these early moments, Earth learned the rhythm of erosion, not as destruction, but as gentle sculpting. Salt first entered the oceans through an ancient, delicate process. As rain fell onto youthful continents, it seeped into porous rock, dissolving minerals carried in narrow streams back toward the sea. These streams were slow and warm, picking up tiny amounts of sodium, calcium, and other minerals along their path. When the water reached the ocean, sunlight evaporated it again, leaving the minerals behind, slowly increasing the salinity drop by drop. The cycle repeated endlessly: rain, erosion, rivers, evaporation, each loop deepening the flavor of the sea. This gentle accumulation took millions of years, a patient weaving of chemistry that transformed water into a mineral-rich cradle. The ocean didn't become salty in a moment, it became salty through the soft persistence of time. Stone and rain working together, heat from Earth's interior rose through cracks in the young crust, warming shallow basins and creating seas that were almost like vast geothermal pools. These warm waters circulated slowly across smooth sea floors, carrying dissolved minerals that glittered faintly when sunlight touched them. The warmth allowed early chemical reactions to happen more easily, turning the oceans into gentle incubators for emerging molecules. Hydrothermal vents released mineral-rich water in slow, steady plumes, feeding the early seas with nutrients essential for life. The interaction between Earth's inner heat and surface water created comforting gradients of temperature, warm shallows near volcanic activity, and cooler pools farther away. This quiet blend of warmth and chemistry formed some of the earliest environments where life could take its first delicate steps. The warmth of the young sun played an essential role in shaping the first waves as sunlight fell across the ocean's surface. It warmed the top layers of water, causing them to rise and drift gently across cooler regions. This temperature difference created the earliest cycles of movement, slow, rolling currents that spread heat across the seas. The interactions of warm and cool layers formed the prototype of waves, small, rhythmic pulses that traveled across the surface, like tiny breaths of the planet. These first waves were soft and shallow, almost imperceptible, but they marked the beginning of a global rhythm that would continue forever. Over time, as winds developed and grew steadier, waves became more defined, but their origins remained gentle, born from the quiet conversation between sunlight and water. The early oceans cradled the first stirrings of life, offering warmth, minerals, and protection from the harsh young environment above. In these sheltered waters, simple molecules drifted, met, and gradually formed more complex structures. Hydrothermal vents provided energy, sunlight warmed shallows, minerals offered stability. Slowly, the building blocks of life assembled, tiny, delicate, and full of possibility. These early forms likely floated in warm, nutrient-rich waters, dividing quietly, evolving without rush or noise. The ocean nurtured them with gentle currents, stable temperatures, and a vastness that allowed countless small experiments to unfold. In this calm, ancient cradle, life began not with a roar, but with softness, one of the quietest beginnings in Earth's long story. Ocean waves begin with the smallest breaths of wind, tiny movements of air brushing across the surface of the water. These winds don't need strength to create waves. Even the gentlest breeze leaves a delicate fingerprint on the sea. Each touch transfers a little energy, forming ripples that spread outward in widening rings. As more breeze pass, these ripples merge into small waves, rolling softly across the open ocean. It is a peaceful process, a collaboration between air and water that happens continuously, without hurry, long before storms or tides shape the sea. These quiet winds set everything in motion. They are the first soft whispers of the ocean's rhythm, creating patterns that can travel endlessly. Waves do not begin with force, they begin with softness, born from air that merely glides across the surface, reminding the water how to move. When waves reach the shore, they roll forward in smooth, repeating motions that feel like the planet's own breathing. A wave approaches, rises slightly, then lowers itself gently into foamy white as it meets the sand. Another follows with the same rhythm, and then another, creating a calm, predictable pattern. This repetition mirrors the cadence of inhaling and exhaling, steady, unbroken, soothing to the senses. People have listened to these waves for thousands of years, finding comfort in their constancy. Nothing else in nature repeats with such gentle consistency, even when the world feels noisy or overwhelming. The sound of waves arriving and departing brings everything back into balance. It reminds us that Earth itself breathes, and that every shore is a peaceful meeting place between land and water. The sound of steady waves has a special ability to ease the mind. Each wave creates a soft rush of white noise, a natural hum that masks worries and quiets inner thoughts. The sound is never harsh, just a smooth blend of water folding over itself, releasing energy in the gentlest way possible. This rhythmic noise activates the brain's relaxation pathways, encouraging slower breathing and a calmer heart rate. The repetition is so consistent that the mind can safely drift, knowing nothing sudden or loud will interrupt. It's the same comfort people find in rain or wind through leaves, viewed deeper, more ancient, shaped by millions of years of tides. Listening to waves feels like letting the ocean hold your thoughts for a while, washing them clean with every soft crest that reaches the shore. Ocean waves can travel thousands of kilometers across open water without losing their calm flow. These long-traveling waves, called swells, move with a quiet confidence, carrying energy across entire oceans while maintaining their smooth shape. They glide beneath storms, past coastlines, and through vast blue distances, all without breaking or becoming turbulent. Their movement is steady and tireless, as if they're guided by an internal memory of where they're going. Even when they reach shores far from where they began, the waves still arrive with the same graceful rhythm, as though they've been breathing for days and weeks across the sea. This persistence creates a sense of continuity no matter where you stand on a coastline. The waves you hear may have begun under a completely different sky, bringing the calm of distant places with them. The height of waves changes subtly depending on the wind's rhythm, creating natural cycles of larger and smaller crests. These variations aren't abrupt, they flow gently, like the ocean adjusting its posture. When winds blow softly, waves sink into calmer patterns, rising only a little before settling again. When winds grow slightly stronger, the waves respond with a slow, gradual lift, never rushing into chaos. This modulation creates a soothing variability waves that feel alive, breathing through patterns shaped by the sky above. Imasia, sailors can sense these gentle shifts, watching the surfaces pulse softly under changing winds. The waves are never identical, yet they are always calming, following the quiet instructions of the atmosphere. Through these subtle changes, the ocean reveals its sensitivity. It listens to the wind, responds to it, and transforms that dialogue into endless, soothing motion. When a wave reaches shallow water, it curls gently and breaks into soft white foam. This foam isn't harsh. It forms from tiny air bubbles trapped in swirling water, creating a texture as delicate as morning mist. The botchung spreads outward, dissolving quietly into sand or rocks, leaving behind thin traces of softness that vanish almost instantly. Watching waves break is like watching silk unravel in slow motion. Each thread made of water, air, and light. The foam carries no weight, no aggression, just a gentle release of energy transformed into something beautiful. Even on calm days, small waves form miniature crowns of white that drift away like whispers. These soft breaks mark the moment when the ocean touches land and exhale, completing its long journey with a sigh of white mist. Every coastline has its own personal rhythm of waves, a pattern shaped by winds, seafloor contours, and distant swells. Some shores breathe with long, slow waves that take their time rising and falling. Others move with shorter, quicker pulses that feel like soft tapping. Even in the same ocean, two beaches a few miles apart can have completely different wave moods. These unique rhythms give each place a distinct personality, almost like a signature written in water. Locals often recognize the sound of their home shores, knowing whether the waves tonight are calmer, deeper, or fuller than usual. This individuality makes the ocean feel alive and sensitive, responding to its surroundings with grace. No rhythm is wrong, each is simply the coastline's natural breath. Deep sea waves move far below the surface, invisible but powerful in a gentle way. Unlike surface waves shaped by wind, these internal waves glide between layers of water with different temperatures. They can be hundreds of meters tall, yet they travel so slowly and smoothly that creatures drifting through them barely notice the motion. These underwater waves create long, rolling hills of density changes, shifting like massive, silent curtains. They help mix nutrients and keep deep waters in motion, acting as the ocean's hidden heartbeat. Though they cannot be seen from above, they are always present, calmly balancing the deep. Imagining these waves is like picturing mountains moving in slow motion beneath a dark blue sky, their peaks and valleys rising and falling in peaceful, unseen rhythms. At night, the surface of the ocean becomes a canvas for moonlight. When waves roll beneath the lunar glow, they catch the light and stretch it into long, shimmering trails. These silver pathways sway gently with each motion, as if guiding the eye toward a distant horizon. The moonlit reflections ripple softly, breaking into countless bright fragments before gathering again in a new shape. Walking by the shore at night, you can see these moving beams dance across the water, quiet and ethereal. They look like threads of light being woven into the sea, only to be unwoven a moment later. It's one of nature's most soothing illusions, light and water collaborating to create a calm, drifting glow that feels ancient and comforting. Each wave carries a sense of age, as though it has traveled through time as much as through water. The rhythm, the shape, the soft collapse onto shore, they all feel like echoes of countless waves that came before. Listening to them is like hearing a story repeated gently across millennia. Some waves whisper lightly, fading almost as soon as they arrive. Others linger, humming softly as they pull back into the sea. Every wave seems to say something small and wordless, a message carried from distant winds and ancient tides. These whispers are not meant to be deciphered, only felt. They remind us that the ocean has existed long before us, and will continue long after, always speaking in its calm, continuous language. Within just a few meters beneath the ocean's surface, sunlight begins to soften. What feels bright and sharp above the waves becomes gentle and diffused as it enters the water. The reds and yellows fade almost instantly, leaving behind pale shades of blue that deepen with every meter. Even shallow dives feel like stepping into a world wrapped in soft filters, where every movement becomes slower, quieter, more dreamlike. The surface above ripples like a liquid sky, sending shifting patterns downward that dissolve into the blue. It is not a sudden darkness, but a slow dimming, like a room where someone is gradually lowering the lights to help you rest. This fading light creates one of the calmest transitions in nature, guiding you into deeper peace with every gentle descent. Blue light remains longer in the ocean than any other color, traveling farther and deeper through water, as other wavelengths fade reds first, then oranges, then greens. The blue tones persist, painting the deep in tranquil, cooling hues. This is why the ocean appears blue not only from above, but from within. The water itself selects this color, carrying it downward like a quiet melody. The blue becomes darker with depth, shifting from pale turquoise to deep cobalt, and finally to midnight blue in the twilight zone. But through each layer, the feeling stays soothing. Blue light has a calming effect on the mind, slowing heart rate and easing tension. In the ocean, that calming effect surrounds everything, turning the deep into a sanctuary of drifting blue shadows. Darkness in the deep ocean is not frightening. It is peaceful, soft, and still. Once sunlight fades completely, the water becomes a vast, velvety space where shadows float gently and movement is unhurried, because there is no sudden shift, only gradual dimming. The transition feels natural and safe, like walking from a sunny field into a quiet evening room. In this darkness, warmth and stability replace harsh contrasts. Many creatures rely on senses other than sight, moving with slow confidence through a world without sharp edges. The silence is profound, broken only by the occasional drift of water or distant vibrations. In this quiet, darkness becomes comforting, a blanket that wraps the deep in timeless calm. The more the light fades, the more the ocean seems to rest. As sunlight passes through the surface, the movement of waves breaks it into shifting beams that shimmer across the water. These rays flicker like soft lanterns being carried through the sea, bending and stretching as swells rise and fall above. Tiny particles in the water catch the light, scattering it into glowing specks that drift downward, twirling slowly like dust motes in a peaceful room. This ever-changing play of brightness creates patterns on the seafloor in shallow areas, rippling mosaics that dance in complete silence. Even in deeper water, the last traces of light pulse gently, opening and closing like the slow heartbeat of the ocean. This flickering is not chaotic, it is soothing, a reminder that light itself relaxes as it sinks into the sea. Each layer of the ocean holds its own shade of blue, like a vertical rainbow made from a single color. Near the surface, the water shines in bright aqua tones, alive with sunlight. A little deeper, the blue becomes softer and more muted, like watercolor spreading across a page. Below that lies a darker, richer blue, cooler, calmer, and deeply serene. Farther still, the twilight zone turns blue into indigo, where hues drift like slow-moving shadows. And in the midnight zone, the blue becomes so deep it feels almost infinite, merging into darkness that still carries a hint of color. These layers create a gentle gradient that guides anyone descending from brightness to darkness in the most peaceful way. It's a journey not into emptiness, but into deeper and deeper calm. Sunlight that reaches shallow water breaks into countless shimmering patterns across the sandy seafloor. As waves pass overhead, they bend the light into moving ribbons that glide gently over the sand, creating shapes that stretch, curl, and fade without ever repeating. These bright, wavy lines resemble soft strokes of light painted by the sea itself, dancing quietly in response to each ripple above. Small shells and stones cast delicate shadows that shift along with the glowing patterns, adding depth and texture to the scene. Watching these flickering ribbons feels like watching time slow down. Every movement is unhurried, every glint soft, every change peaceful. It is one of the ocean's most calming displays, a reminder that light does not disappear suddenly, but transforms into gentle motion before fading. When fish swim through sunlit water, their shadows dance across the seafloor like brushstrokes in a watercolor painting. These moving silhouettes stretch and soften with the waves above. Never sharp, never abrupt, just smooth, fluid shapes gliding through blue light. The fish themselves often move slowly, drifting with small adjustments of their fins, allowing their shadows to flow behind them like ink spreading through water. Sometimes, groups of fish create overlapping patterns, weaving a tapestry of shifting outlines that vanish and reappear as the creatures change depth. These soft shadows give the underwater world a sense of quiet artistry, as though every creature paints its own moment on the sandy canvas below. It is a gentle, living artwork that changes with every heartbeat of the ocean. Bioluminescent algae create one of the ocean's most magical scenes. Soft blue-green light glowing gently in the darkness. These tiny organisms release light when disturbed by waves, currents, or the brush of a swimming creature. At night, shorelines and shallow waters come alive with shimmering trails, sparkles that burst gently like underwater fireflies. The glow is never harsh, it pulses softly, illuminating the night sea with an otherworldly calm. Sometimes entire tides shimmer when millions of these algae bloom together, turning the ocean into a glowing field of stars. The light fades quickly, only to reappear with the next ripple, creating an endless sequence of gentle, luminescent sighs. This natural glow has illuminated coastlines for millions of years, offering a quiet reminder that even in darkness, the ocean carries its own soft light. Tiny plankton drifting in the water reflect and scatter sunlight, like floating dust in a quiet room. When rays filter down through shifting waves, each particle catches a bit of brightness, turning the water into a soft, star-filled space. These specks drift slowly with the currents, rising during the night and sinking during the day in a rhythm older than humanity itself. From above, they look like suspended sparks, suspended in gentle blue haze. When millions gather together, they create subtle clouds of shimmering light, transforming even dim areas of the ocean into softly glowing worlds. Their motion is effortless, guided by water rather than intention, and their reflective shimmer adds a delicate texture to the sea. Watching them feels like watching stardust drift in slow motion through an underwater sky. As light travels deeper into the ocean, it gradually fades into softer hues until it finally disappears, yielding completely to stillness. This dimming is slow and peaceful, like twilight stretching on for hours beneath the waves. The colors shift from vibrant blue to muted sapphire, then to deep indigo, before blending into comforting darkness. With each meter of descent, the ocean becomes quieter, more tranquil, and more timeless. The absence of light does not feel empty, it feels restful, like the world pausing to take a long, deep breath. In this darkness, the ocean is at its most serene, and the creatures that live here move with gentle, deliberate grace. As the last traces of sunlight fade, they leave behind a calm so complete that it feels like the ocean inviting everything within it to rest. Many ocean creatures produce natural light, glowing softly in the darkness like drifting stars. This bioluminescence is created by gentle chemical reactions within their bodies, releasing a cool, soothing radiance that moves with every breath and motion. Unlike artificial light, their glow is never sharp or harsh, only a soft shimmer that blends perfectly with the deep sea's calm. Jellyfish, plankton, small fish, and even some worms emit this quiet light, turning dark waters into a tranquil galaxy. When millions of these organisms gather, the ocean becomes a glowing field of blue, pulsing like a heartbeat. This ancient light has existed for millions of years, far earlier than any creature walked on land. It is nature's oldest form of illumination, comforting, delicate, and timeless. In the deep, this gentle glow guides life without sound, without urgency, like a lantern drifting slowly through eternity. Blue is the most common color of ocean bioluminescence, and for good reason. It travels farthest through water. This soft, cool shade pierces the darkness without overwhelming it, creating a glow that feels both peaceful and mysterious. When blue light radiates from plankton or deep-sea creatures, it floats in wide halos that drift with the currents, turning the water into a dreamy, shifting landscape of soft illumination. In the deep ocean, blue becomes the language of visibility, allowing creatures to see one another, locate movement, or blend into their surroundings. The color itself is calming to the human mind, associated with depth, quiet, and slow rhythms. Watching blue bioluminescence spread across water feels like watching moonlight dissolve into the sea, cool, serene, and endlessly soothing. It is the ocean's gentle whisper of light. When jellyfish glow, their bodies transform into floating lanterns, each pulse of their bell sending waves of soft light swirling through the water. Their movements are slow and rhythmic, creating the illusion of a delicate dance unfolding in deep blue darkness. The glow traces the outline of their transparent forms, revealing tendrils that drift like silk ribbons behind them. Sometimes the light pulses in rings, other times it spreads like a gentle blush across their surface. A group of glowing jellyfish moving together looks like a ballet of living stars, rising and falling with each breath of the ocean. Their bioluminescence is not meant to dazzle, it is meant to soothe, to communicate, and to gently illuminate the water around them. Watching these glowing creatures feels like drifting into a dream where the night itself moves. Some fish use light to quietly communicate in the darkness, sending soft signals that drift through deep water like secret messages. Their bioluminescent organs glow with controlled flashes or subtle glimmers, helping them find companions, warn others of danger, or coordinate group movement. These lights pulse in patterns gentle, slow, and mesmerizing. Unlike land animals, these creatures speak through illumination rather than sound, creating a language made of moving brightness. In the deep ocean, where voices carry poorly and darkness is constant, light becomes a calm and elegant form of connection. Watching these signals flicker feels like observing tiny lanterns exchanging thoughts in a silent world. These glowing conversations weave through the darkness without urgency, maintaining harmony and balance in a place where silence reigns. Bioluminescent bacteria glow in small clusters, creating tiny constellations that drift across water or cling to the surfaces of marine animals. These minuscule organisms emit a gentle, steady light rather than flashes, giving them the appearance of faint stars suspended in the sea. When millions gather on floating debris or fish, they form halos of blue-green light that shimmer softly in the darkness. Their glow is so gentle, it feels like an exhale, calm constant, comforting. Some animals even cultivate these bacteria intentionally, using them like natural lanterns. The bacteria benefit from the shelter, while the host enjoys a subtle source of illumination. These glowing colonies are one of the ocean's quietest wonders, a reminder that even the smallest life forms can create beauty in the dark. When bioluminescent algae bloom in large numbers, they turn entire coastlines into glowing ribbons of blue during the night. Every movement, a wave rolling in, a footstep in the wet sand, even a fish swimming near the surface, triggers gentle flashes of light that ripple outward like soft sparks. These blooms transform the ocean into a living constellation, shimmering with every touch and shifting with the tide. The glow isn't constant. It appears in pulses, brightening and fading as the water stirs, creating an effect that feels alive and breathing. Walking along such a shore feels like stepping through a dream where every footstep leaves behind a trail of blue fire. Yet the light remains calming, not intense, a natural magic that has been occurring for millions of years, illuminating ancient nights long before humans ever watched in wonder. The light produced by ocean organisms is always soft, never harsh. It spreads gently through the water, diffusing into a glow that soothes rather than startles. Bioluminescent flashes curve around the shapes of waves, forming halos that fade quickly and melt back into the dark. Even in the deep sea, where creatures use their glow for survival, the brightness remains low and comforting, like candles flickering behind layers of blue glass. This softness is what makes bioluminescence feel otherworldly light that exists without heat, without sharp edges, without noise. It is illumination designed for a world of quietness. When you see this faint glow, it feels as if the ocean is whispering in light form, sharing a secret meant only for the night. Some squid use bioluminescence not to stand out, but to blend in along their bodies. They control tiny light-producing organs that mimic the faint glow of moonlight filtering from above. This trick, called counter-illumination, helps them erase their shadows and disappear into the water column. Instead of hiding in darkness, they hide in light, matching the brightness of their surroundings so well that predators below cannot see their silhouette. Watching a squid drift through water while glowing softly feels like watching a living ghost, a creature that has become part of the ocean's own illumination. Their gentle light doesn't flash or flicker wildly. It glows in a controlled, graceful way, helping them move unnoticed through the night sea. In this quiet camouflage, their bodies become a seamless part of the ocean's calm darkness. When night settles over the ocean and bioluminescent creatures awaken, the sea can look like a sky full of stars, but one that moves under your feet instead of above your head. Tiny sparks of light drift in currents, forming patterns that resemble constellations, swirling galaxies, or long trails of cosmic dust. Every shift of the water rearranges the lights into new shapes. It's as if the ocean turns itself upside down at night, placing the stars beneath the surface and letting them drift freely. The gentle motion of the waves makes these underwater stars shimmer or fade and return in slow rhythms that calm the senses. Standing on the shore, watching these lights gather and scatter, it feels like witnessing the universe reflected in water, a soft mirror of the cosmos glowing just beneath the surface. Bioluminescent pulses deep in the ocean resemble the slow breathing of a great, ancient creature. Some organisms emit steady glows, others release flashes in patterns that rise and fall like inhaling and exhaling. In the stillness of the deep sea, These lights drift through darkness in gentle waves, illuminating small pockets of water before fading again. The rhythm is never chaotic, always smooth, patient, and deeply calming. This movement of light through water creates the feeling that the ocean itself is alive, luminous, and resting. Each glow is a heartbeat, each fade is a sigh. Together, they form one of the most tranquil sights on the planet, an underwater world lit not by the sun, but by life itself, glowing softly in eternal night. Life in the deep sea moves at a pace far slower than anything at the surface. With almost no light, limited food, and steady cold temperatures, creatures here conserve energy by drifting, gliding, or creeping in deliberate motions. Many fish swim with gentle pulses of their fins, barely disturbing the water around them. Crustaceans move inch by inch, pausing often as though listening to the quiet. Even predators strike with calm precision, not speed ambushes powered by patience rather than force. This slowness creates an atmosphere of deep serenity where nothing rushes and every action feels like part of an ancient ritual. Watching deep-sea creatures is like observing time itself stretch, soften, and settle. Their movements reflect a world that has existed unchanged for millions of years, where stillness is not emptiness, but a way of life, shaped by darkness and depth. The pressure in the deep ocean is immense, hundreds of times greater than at the surface, but for the creatures that live there, it is a stable, comforting environment. Their bodies evolved to match the pressure perfectly, with flexible tissues, fluid-filled spaces, and structures designed not to resist the weight, but to coexist with it, because the pressure changes so little across their everyday lives. Deep-sea animals experience no stress from it. To them, the crushing force feels like a steady embrace, surrounding them in calm stillness. Even delicate jellyfish drift gracefully at these depths, unfazed by conditions that would destroy surface life. This constancy makes the deep ocean feel peaceful, like a hidden world untouched by storms or tides. The pressure is simply part of the silence, an invisible presence shaping a realm where everything moves with soft, measured balance. Many deep-sea species live incredibly long lives, some reaching hundreds of years in quiet isolation. The Greenland shark, for example, may live for centuries, drifting slowly through cold darkness with a steady, unhurried rhythm. Certain corals grow millimeter by millimeter, building intricate structures that stand for thousands of years. Even smaller creatures follow unhurried life cycles, reproducing slowly and aging at a pace almost unimaginable to surface life. This longevity reflects the deep sea's stability. Temperatures barely change, currents are gentle, and seasons do not exist. Time drifts differently here, stretching into long, uninterrupted chapters. These ancient beings are like living fossils, carrying memories of eras long gone. Their extended lifespans give the deep ocean a sense of timelessness, as if life here has stepped outside the rush of the world above. When whales pass through deep waters, they appear as enormous, gentle shadows gliding through blue-black silence, their movements slow as they descend, bodies relaxed, tails sweeping in long, powerful arcs that create almost no disturbance. At great depths, their songs become deeper and more resonant, traveling vast distances through the dense water. These low-frequency calls echo softly through the deep sea, like ancient voices humming in a cathedral of darkness. Whales do not fear the dark. They move through it with calm confidence, exploring cold canyons and quiet plains. Their presence brings a sense of warmth to the deep, a reminder that even the largest creatures on Earth can move with incredible gentleness. Seeing a whale emerge from the shadows feels like witnessing a peaceful giant drifting through eternity. Deep-sea algae and other plant-like organisms are experts at capturing faint, scattered light that filters down from the surface. Although almost no sunlight reaches their depths, they survive by absorbing every tiny photon that slips through the water. Their cells contain pigments finely tuned to low light, allowing them to harvest energy where most life cannot. These organisms often glow with subtle hues, soft greens or blues that shimmer faintly when disturbed. Their ability to thrive under such dim conditions adds a quiet beauty to the deep, populating shadowed slopes and rocky outcrops with patches of gentle color. They form the foundation of entire ecosystems, providing nourishment for small drifting creatures that, in turn, feed larger ones. In this way, even faint light becomes precious, transformed into life through patience and adaptability. Long-finned fish move through the deep sea with a grace that feels almost unreal, their elongated fins trailing behind them like flowing ribbons. Every motion is slow and deliberate, creating ripples that spread softly into the surrounding darkness. Instead of quick bursts of movement, they glide in wide, sweeping arcs, allowing the water to carry them with minimal effort. Their fins undulate gently, catching small currents invisible to the eye, but strong enough to guide their path. Watching one drift through the deep is like watching a piece of silk floating underwater, twisting and turning in perfect harmony with the calm around it. These fish seem to embody the rhythm of the deep sea itself, quiet, fluid, and unhurried, moving as if they have all the time in the world. Cold water corals grow at an unbelievably slow pace, adding fractions of a millimeter each year, like droplets of time solidifying into structure. These corals form towering reefs over centuries, creating delicate, branching shapes in near-total darkness. Every tiny polyp extends and contracts with patient rhythm, gathering nutrients that drift past in icy currents. Because they grow so slowly, their formations record ancient histories, changes in temperature, chemistry, and deep-sea conditions preserved layer by layer. These reefs become havens for countless creatures, offering shelter in a world where hiding places are rare. Their quiet persistence gives the deep sea an ageless quality, as if entire landscapes are built from the steady drip of time itself. Cold water corals remind us that beauty can arise not from speed or abundance, but from long, dedicated stillness. Many deep-sea fish rest in the stillest parts of the water, conserving energy by floating within layers where movement is minimal. These standing waters are areas where currents slow to a near stop, creating pockets of silent stability. Fish settle into these calm zones, holding their position without flapping fins or swimming actively. Their bodies seem suspended in space, barely moving except for the slow opening and closing of their gills. In the dimness, they appear like statues, quiet, weightless, at peace. This type of resting isn't sleep in the way we know it, but a deep form of conservation, allowing them to endure the long stretches between meals. In these moments, the deep sea feels like a vast, floating dream where life pauses, breathes, and waits for the next gentle shift in the water. Black smokers, towering columns of mineral-rich water rise from the seafloor like ancient chimneys, releasing hot, dark plumes that billow upward in slow spirals, though they appear ominous. These vents provide the essential energy that sustains entire deep-sea ecosystems. Their warmth creates pockets of life in an otherwise cold, shadowed world. Microbes gather near the plumes, feeding on chemical energy instead of sunlight. Larger creatures follow tube worms, crustaceans, strange fish, forming entire communities around these natural fountains. The plumes move like underwater smoke, drifting in graceful curls and mixing with the surrounding cold water in soft gradients. Despite their intensity, the overall effect is calm, mesmerizing an underwater fireplace glowing quietly in the deepest night. They are a reminder that even in darkness, life finds warmth. Time in the deep sea feels stretched and softened, moving at a pace completely different from the surface world, with little sunlight, slow metabolism, and steady temperatures. Nothing changes quickly. Creatures grow slowly, age slowly, move slowly. Entire ecosystems remain stable for centuries without dramatic shifts. The silence enhances this feeling. There are no waves crashing, no storms reaching these depths, only the soft pulse of distant currents. Rocks éroulent à glacial speeds. Corals rise millimeter by millimeter, and ancient fish drift through the water as if suspended in eternity. In this place, time doesn't rush, it flows like a long, unbroken breath. The deep sea becomes a sanctuary where the planet's oldest rhythms continue undisturbed, offering a glimpse into a slower, gentler version of existence. The seafloor stretches outward like an endless blue plain, gently curving with the shape of the earth. From above, it may seem empty, but up close, it is full of quiet textures, soft ripples of sand, scattered pebbles, and tiny mounds left behind by burrowing creatures. The water moves slowly here, carrying fine grains that settle like dust, drifting through still air. The plain feels peaceful, untouched by the hurried world above. It doesn't rise or fall dramatically. Instead, it expands in calm continuity. Mile after mile, life wanders across it without urgency, crabs leaving delicate tracks, slow-moving sea cucumbers rolling grains aside, starfish gliding almost invisibly. This vast, gentle floor forms the foundation of the ocean, a serene landscape where everything happens slowly and where silence feels like part of the terrain itself. Hidden beneath the waves are underwater mountain ranges taller than Everest, rising from the depths in sweeping, unchanged arcs. These submerged giants form the backbone of the ocean floor, stretching thousands of miles across the planet. Their slopes are rugged, yet softened by the dim blue light that never fully reaches them. Lava once flowed along these ridges, creating new crust that cooled in quiet patterns. Today, their peaks remain calm and undisturbed, home to deep-sea corals, drifting fish, and small creatures that cling to the rocks. No storms shake them, no winds touch them, only slow currents brushing their sides with gentle persistence. Despite their massive size, these mountains feel peaceful, like sleeping colossi hidden beneath the waves, holding the rhythm of the ocean steady with their ancient, unmoving presence. The deepest valleys of the ocean lie in near total darkness, yet the quiet there is comforting rather than frightening. These trenches sink farther than any light can reach, creating a world where everything moves slowly and softly. Pressure increases steadily with depth, but life adapted to these conditions floats gracefully or settles into the sediment without disturbance. The water hardly stirs, giving the sense that time itself has slowed. Even sound travels differently here, muted, stretched, softened. Tiny creatures generate faint glows, adding specks of gentle light to an otherwise infinite stillness. The valley walls rise steeply on either side, but their shapes remain hidden, felt more than seen. In this deep sanctuary, the ocean becomes a place of profound calm, where each moment unfolds quietly, and where the planet's most ancient silence resides. Sand on the ocean floor moves like underwater desert dunes, shifting slowly under the influence of deep currents. These movements are gentle, barely noticeable from one moment to the next. Over hours or days, the dunes subtly change shape, forming new patterns in soft, flowing lines, much like a desert on land. The underwater sands create ridges and waves, but they move with an even more delicate touch. Tiny fish slip between the folds, and small crustaceans burrow beneath the grains where the sand is coolest. When the light above is strong enough to reach these depths, it scatters across the dunes in shimmering patterns, giving the impression that the sand itself is breathing. These quiet deserts beneath the waves remind us that even the smallest movements of the ocean carry beauty, patience, and a gentle sense of endless change. Soft mud covers many parts of the sea floor, creating a cushion-like landscape where countless creatures find shelter. This mud is made of fine particles, silt, decayed plants, tiny shells, all settling slowly over thousands of years. Its texture is so smooth that animals glide across it without leaving more than faint traces. Burrowing worms, delicate serpents, and shy crustaceans hide within it, using the gentle sediment as both home and protection. When a current passes through, the mud responds softly, lifting in thin veils before settling again like slow-falling snow. It absorbs sound, creating a muted world where movement feels distant and dreamlike. In this quiet environment, life thrives in subtle ways, growing and moving at its own unhurried pace. Wrapped in the calm embrace of the ocean's softest terrain, coral outcrops form underwater forests made of stone and colour, rising gently from the seafloor like slow-growing trees. Each branch of coral builds itself grain by grain, layer by layer, creating shapes that look almost handcrafted. Fish weave through the structures with calm precision, their scales catching tiny glimmers of blue light. Soft currents brush against the coral, making its delicate polyps sway like petals underwater. Over centuries, these formations expand to become living cities, quiet, intricate, and full of hidden corners where small creatures rest. Even though corals are solid, their presence feels gentle, as if the ocean designed them to soften the landscape around them. Here, time stretches into long, peaceful cycles, and every colour from pale lavender to warm gold shimmers with a dreamlike stillness. Underwater plateaus stretch across the deep like forgotten continents, wide and flat surfaces that sit quietly between mountains and trenches. These sunken highlands once may have touched the air millions of years ago, but now they rest beneath soft layers of water, undisturbed and serene. Their surfaces are covered with smooth sands, scattered shells, and occasional patches of hardy corals that cling to the edges. The stillness here feels ancient, as though the ocean has been keeping a secret for ages. Slow-moving fish drift lazily over the plain, their shadows sliding across the plateau like passing clouds. Even deep-sea currents seem to respect this quiet space, moving gently across it without stirring much. These underwater continents remind us of how vast and calm the earth can be when left to simply exist, far from storms and waves. Bottom currents flow with a softness that feels almost like air, drifting across the seafloor in slow, subtle ribbons. They move too gently to stir large objects, but they glide over sand grains and shells, shifting them in delicate patterns. These currents are the quiet artists of the deep, carving faint ripples on the ocean floor that last for days or weeks. They carry nutrients, tiny particles, and the smallest hints of warmth from distant waters, helping life flourish, even in the darkest depths. Sometimes these currents form gentle spirals, circling around rocks before slipping away into deeper valleys. Because the movement is so light, creatures barely notice. They simply sway in harmony, floating slightly before settling back down. The deep ocean's currents remind us that even the faintest motion can shape a landscape over vast stretches of time. The seafloor holds the footprints of ancient worlds, storing memories in layers of sand, stone, and shell. Fossilized tracks from long-extinct animals lie quietly beneath the sediment, preserved by gentle pressure rather than violence. Shifts in the Earth's crust have hidden entire shorelines, riverbeds, and coral fields that once teemed with life, leaving behind patterns now softened by time. Shell fragments tell stories of creatures that lived and drifted here millions of years ago, while mineral layers hint at past climates and ocean temperatures. Every grain on the seabed carries a trace of history, tiny records of volcanic eruptions, migrating species, and shifting tides. Even though these marks are silent and nearly invisible, they whisper about eras long gone, forming a calm, enduring diary written in stone and water. Sound at the bottom of the ocean becomes soft and muted, turning even distant rumbles into gentle vibrations. Here, noise travels slowly, cushioned by dense water and thick layers of sediment. A whale's call fades into a low hum, and the crackle of shifting rocks becomes little more than a faint pulse. This softening of sound creates a world that feels incredibly peaceful, as if the ocean itself is encouraging calm. Movements happen quietly. Fish glide without splashes. Currents drift without roar. And deep-sea creatures communicate with subtle pulses rather than loud calls. The silence isn't empty. It is rich with softness, like a long, soothing exhale beneath all the pressure and darkness. The deep sea holds a quiet that feels almost sacred, inviting everything within it to slow down and simply be. Humpback whales sing deep, resonant songs that drift through the ocean like slow-moving waves of sound. These melodies can travel for hundreds of miles, echoing softly between layers of water. No one fully understands their purpose. Perhaps communication, perhaps navigation, or maybe something more ancient. What we do know is that each note rises and falls with a calm rhythm, like a long, soothing breath. When a humpback sings, its entire body moves gently with the vibration, creating a ripple of sound that feels almost like a lullaby for the ocean itself. Other whales sometimes join in, weaving their own tones into the song until it becomes a shared chorus drifting through twilight waters. Listening to them feels like hearing the heartbeat of the sea steady, low, and endlessly peaceful. Dolphins swim together in coordinated groups that move like flocks of birds beneath the waves. Their bodies curve gracefully through the water, and each turn seems to flow naturally into the next. As if they're following an unspoken choreography, they glide close to one another without ever colliding, guided by instincts refined over millions of years. Soft clicks and whistles help them communicate, forming a gentle language that blends seamlessly into the quiet ocean soundscape. Sometimes they leap playfully at the surface, but underwater their movements remain smooth and serene. Watching a group of dolphins glide through open blue water feels almost meditative, the ocean's version of a peaceful dance. Unhurried and effortlessly synchronized, their presence brings a sense of companionship to the vast sea, showing that even in open water, harmony can be found. Sea turtles move through the ocean with a unique calmness that seems to slow the world around them. Their flippers push the water in long, unbroken strokes, propelling them forward with surprising ease. Rather than rushing, they drift and glide, adjusting their path with the gentlest tilt of a fin. Their shells shimmer softly under filtered sunlight, catching flecks of gold and green as they pass. Turtles often rise to the surface for a quiet breath before sinking back into the blue like a falling leaf. Everything they do carries a sense of patience, shaped by millions of years of traveling the seas. When you watch a sea turtle swim, it feels like watching a living embodiment of tranquility, steady, graceful, and entirely unhurried. Starfish move in a way so slow and delicate that it almost escapes notice. Beneath each arm, hundreds of tiny tube feet work together, gripping and releasing with perfect coordination. Though they advance only a few centimeters per hour, their motion is steady and purposeful, like a silent tide shifting across the sea floor. Light glimmers softly across their textured bodies, highlighting patterns that look almost like natural mandalas. In tidal pools and coral reefs, starfish slide calmly over rocks, sand, and shells, exploring their surroundings with gentle patience. Their slow pace gives them a dreamlike quality, as if they exist slightly outside the usual rhythm of the world. Watching them is a reminder that life can unfold beautifully even at the quietest speed. Crabs walk sideways with a rhythmic, almost playful motion, their legs moving in a coordinated shuffle that feels surprisingly gentle. The pattern of their steps resembles a tiny sideways dance across the sand, each movement deliberate yet soft. In shallow water, their shells reflect shifting light, creating glints of blue, green, and copper as they pass. Crabs may pause to sift through grains of sand or adjust their path, but they rarely rush. The ocean's pulse guides their movements, helping them navigate tide pools, reefs, and shorelines with ease. Even when waves roll overhead, they continue their quiet, sideways journey, unfazed by the motion around them. There's a comforting steadiness in the way they move, as if each step is part of a timeless rhythm shared by countless generations. Stingrays glide through the ocean exactly like birds flying underwater, their wide fins lifting and falling in slow, graceful waves. Each movement looks effortless, as if the water itself is carrying them forward. They rarely rush. Instead, they drift along sandy bottoms, casting soft, shifting shadows across the seafloor. Sunlight patterns ripple gently across their backs, creating glowing lines that move with every flap. When they turn, Their bodies tilt with the elegance of a glider catching a breeze. Even their landing is soft, settling onto sand with barely a puff of sediment. Watching a stingray move feels like watching a feather float through blue water, peaceful and entirely unbothered by the world around it. Octopuses change colour with the delicacy of drifting clouds, their skin shifting through shades as smoothly as the sky at sunrise. Each pigment cell expands or contracts in quiet coordination, creating soft gradients of browns, reds, or calming blues. When they rest, their bodies mimic nearby rocks or corals with such gentle accuracy that they seem to dissolve into the background. Their arms move with slow intelligence, exploring textures with a tender curiosity. Even when they glide across the seafloor, their motion resembles a liquid flow rather than a walk. These changes happen without sudden flashes, just soft transitions that feel almost hypnotic. An octopus in calm water looks like a living watercolor, blending into the ocean's palette with serene, unhurried grace. Mullets leap from the surface in short, playful bursts, and when they land, gentle ripples spread outward in perfect circles. Each ring expands quietly across the water, like soft vibrations echoing into stillness. These tiny waves overlap and fade without rush, creating patterns that look almost meditative. Schools of mullet often move together, so dozens of circles may shimmer across a calm bay, at once small, delicate signatures left by their brief jumps. The sound of their splashes is muted and light, barely more than a whisper. Watching the ripples stretch and smooth themselves across the ocean can feel like observing time slow down, each ring widening until it becomes part of the larger, steady rhythm of the sea. Small fish move together like drifting silver rain, each body catching glimmers of light as they turn in unison. Their schools flow as a single shape, folding and unfolding through the water with gentle precision. When they change direction, the motion spreads through the group like a soft wave traveling across a field of grass. Tiny reflections sparkle from their scales, creating a shifting cloud of shimmering dots that looks almost like falling stars underwater. They move to stay safe, but the result is unexpectedly beautiful, calm, coordinated, and soothing to watch. Even predators rarely disturb their flow for long. The school regathers quickly, returning to its peaceful drift through open water. Their movement feels like a whisper of life carried on the ocean's currents. All marine life follows a naturally slow rhythm shaped by the tides, the moon, and the steady pulse of the planet itself. Even the fastest creatures pause often, gliding or resting as the water around them moves in predictable, gentle cycles. Plants sway in long, unbroken motions. Worms sift through sand grain by grain. Jellyfish pulse with soft, repetitive beats. Every part of the ocean seems tuned to a pace that encourages calm rather than urgency. This slow rhythm has existed for millions of years, guiding migrations, feeding patterns, and the rise and fall of entire ecosystems. When you watch the ocean long enough, you can feel that rhythm settling into your own breath, steady, patient, and endlessly soothing. Tides rise and fall in a steady rhythm, guided by the pull of the moon, creating one of the most calming cycles on Earth. As the moon drifts across the sky, its gravity lifts the ocean gently toward it, causing water levels to rise in long, smooth waves that can last for hours. When the tide reaches its peak, the ocean seems to pause, hovering in a moment of stillness before slowly releasing its hold. This cycle repeats with peaceful predictability, day after day, anchoring life along coastlines, plants, animals, and entire ecosystems rely on this soft, lunar-guided heartbeat. Watching the tide move is like watching the planet breathe and inhale and exhale, shaped by celestial companionship. It's a quiet reminder that even vast waters follow a tender, cosmic rhythm. When the tide moves outward, the ocean recedes with a softness that feels like an exhale from a sleeping world. The water pulls back slowly, revealing smooth sand, small pools, and gentle ripples left behind like fingerprints. This retreat is never rushed. It's a gradual slide that gives shore creatures time to adjust. Tiny waves continue to lap the edges, as if the sea is whispering its lingering presence. The sound grows softer, the foam thins, and the shoreline stretches wider. For a moment, everything feels spacious and quiet, as though the world has opened up a little more. Watching the tide go out can feel deeply calming, a reminder that everything has its time to ebb, to release, and to rest before returning again. Tidal waves carry nutrients toward the shore with each rise, enriching coastal waters in a cycle as gentle as it is essential. These slow-moving currents bring tiny organisms, dissolved minerals, and drifting particles closer to beaches, mangroves, and tidal flats. Plants and small animals wait for these deliveries, gathering their food from the soft influx of ocean life. When the tide flows in, it revitalizes the entire shoreline, creating small pockets where fish feed and shells filter fresh water. Though the movement is subtle, its impact is profound, supporting ecosystems in a calm, reliable rhythm. From plankton to shorebirds, countless species depend on this quiet transfer of nourishment. It is the ocean's way of feeding the edges of the world without fanfare, offering life through gentle, repeated gestures. As the tide recedes, stretches of sand appear like newly revealed playgrounds for small creatures. Crabs scuttle across wet surfaces, leaving delicate tracks. Shells and tiny clams dig themselves gently into the soft ground. Shallow pools form where water lingers, each becoming a temporary home for fish fry, starfish, and drifting seaweed. These exposed sands glisten in sunlight or moonlight, their textures changing with every step. Even the wind seems to slow down here, brushing lightly across the open space. This brief moment between tides allows the smallest forms of life to forage, explore, and rest. It transforms the coastline into a peaceful, shimmering world where everything moves at a slow, natural pace. High tides give mother sea turtles the perfect moment to come ashore and lay their eggs. Under the cover of darkness, they glide onto the beach with slow, determined movements. Guided by instincts older than any human memory, the higher water allows them to reach spots safe from crashing waves, where the sand is soft and warm. Each step is deliberate, quiet, and accompanied by the gentle hiss of shifting grains. After nesting, the turtles return to the sea just as calmly, letting the waves carry them back into the dark water. This cycle repeats, season after season, guided by the tides that rise and fall with lunar grace. The process is gentle and timeless, a tender ritual between the ocean and its ancient travelers. Tides gently cleanse the shoreline each day, sweeping away debris in a slow and natural rhythm. As the water rises, it washes over rocks, shells, and sand, lifting small particles and carrying them back into the sea. When the tide retreats, it leaves behind a refreshed landscape, smooth sand, tidal marks traced like soft brush strokes, and small pools where creatures rest. This daily cleansing keeps coastal ecosystems healthy, without any sudden force or disruption. Everything happens gradually, shaped by water that moves with patience rather than pressure. Even the smallest wave contributes to this quiet renewal, brushing over footprints, seaweed, and scattered grains of sand. The shoreline becomes a living canvas, redrawn twice a day by the calm, reliable motion of the tides. Watching it happen feels like witnessing the simplest, kindest form of transformation. Tidal changes occur so slowly and predictably that entire species have designed their lives around them. Unlike storms or wind, tides do not surprise. They follow a steady schedule guided by the moon's gentle pull. You can stand at the beach for minutes at a time without noticing any visible shift. Yet the water is always in motion, rising or falling in imperceptible increments. This gradualness creates a sense of safety, an assurance that nothing in the tides happens abruptly. Fishermen, birds, crabs, and even plants know this rhythm by heart, responding in peaceful, measured ways. Watching a tide shift is like watching the hands of a very slow clock, marking time not by urgency, but by calm, celestial coordination. It is one of nature's most soothing patterns. Enclosed bays develop their own unique tidal rhythms, shaped by their curves, depth, and surrounding land. Because the water has less space to move, the tide might rise higher or linger longer in these sheltered places. Each bay becomes a world with its own timing, its own soft pulse. In these protected waters, waves arrive with gentler pressure, and the movements of the tide feel almost like the bay is breathing at a slower pace than the open sea. Boats rock lightly, birds forage along exposed flats. Small fish navigate the shifting shallows with ease. Everything adapts to a rhythm that feels intimate and carefully balanced. Watching tides in a quiet bay gives the impression of listening to the ocean whisper a personalized melody, different from anywhere else on Earth. The soft motion of the tides ensures that the ocean is never truly still, even on the calmest days. Tiny changes in water level keep the sea alive with subtle movement. Waves may quiet, currents may soften, but the slow rise and fall continues like a gentle heartbeat beneath everything. This ever-present motion stirs nutrients, shapes coastlines, and supports marine life without ever feeling forceful or chaotic. The tide keeps water from stagnating, helps guide wandering marine animals, and maintains the quiet pulse of ecosystems. You might not see the change from one moment to the next, but the shift is always happening in the background, steady and serene. It's a reminder that even in stillness, there is always gentle activity flowing through the ocean. Tides serve as the heartbeat of the ocean's slow, the rhythmic pulses that move water across the planet with quiet reliability, just as a heart circulates blood through a body. Tides circulate nutrients, energy, and movement through coastal and deep-sea environments. Every rise brings renewal, every fall brings rest. This cycle has been steady for billions of years, shaped by the moon's gravity and the Earth's rotation. When you listen to the tide, you're hearing a rhythm older than mountains, one that continues with unwavering softness. It guides the migrations of sea turtles, the feeding patterns of shorebirds, the blooming of plankton, and the daily life of countless marine creatures. To stand by the water's edge and feel the tide move is to feel connected to a vast, slow, cosmic pulse, one that invites your own breath to follow. Clouds roll over the ocean like a vast, gentle blanket, stretching from one horizon to the other in smooth layers. Over open water, there are no mountains or cities to break their shape, so cloud drift freely, forming long, unbroken sheets of white and soft grey. They move slowly, carried by steady winds that shape them into rounded edges and flowing patterns. From below, the ocean reflects their colours, turning the water a calm blue or a muted silver, depending on the light. Sometimes the clouds gather into soft towers, rising like silent sculptures in the sky. Other times they flatten into delicate veils that filter sunlight into warm, golden tones. Watching these clouds float overhead feels like watching the sky breathe a slow, expansive inhale and exhale that calms everything beneath it, including you. Sea breezes blow with a cool, even softness created by the difference between warm land and steady ocean temperatures. These winds rarely feel harsh. Instead, they glide gently across the waves, carrying the scent of salt and the faint freshness of far-off waters. As they reach the shore, they bring a soothing coolness that feels like a subtle shift in the air, brushing against the skin with the lightest touch. Birds ride these breezes effortlessly, hovering and gliding in calm patterns. Palm leaves sway without urgency. Even the surface of the water responds with small, rhythmic ripples. Sea breezes maintain this consistency throughout the day, offering a natural balance that makes coastal weather feel peaceful and predictable. They create a sense of open space, a reminder of how vast, steady, and alive the ocean truly is. Rain over the ocean falls like fine mist, soft enough to blur the horizon in a gentle haze. Unlike heavy storms on land, sea rain often comes as light, drifting droplets that merge seamlessly with the wind. Each raindrop touches the surface of the water with barely a sound, creating countless tiny rings that fade quickly back into stillness. The air becomes cooler and fresher, carrying a clean, salty scent that feels deeply calming. Clouds above soften into muted layers, filtering sunlight into pale blue and silver shades. The rain doesn't rush, it moves slowly, spreading across wide stretches of ocean as though painting the sea with transparency. This kind of rain makes the world feel quieter, as if the ocean itself is whispering and everything else is pausing to listen. Distant thunder over the ocean has a softness that surprises many people. Without buildings or mountains to echo sharply, the sound rolls gently across the water, spreading into low, velvety rumbles. It feels more like a drumbeat muffled by distance than a sudden crack. Each rumble blends into the next, creating a calming rhythm that matches the slow movement of waves below. Lightning may flicker far away, but its glow is often filtered by clouds, turning into a faint, pulsing light instead of a flash. Sailors describe this ocean thunder as soothing a sound that fills the sky without disturbing the mind. It reminds you that the world is vast and alive, yet capable of incredible gentleness. Even in moments of power, sea fog drifts across the water like a curtain of silk, forming when cool air meets warm ocean surfaces. It spreads slowly, softening every shape and turning the horizon into a gentle blur. Boats appear and disappear as if moving through a dream. Sounds become muted, the splash of waves, the call of birds, even the hum of engines, everything wrapped in a quiet blanket of moisture. The fog is rarely cold. Instead, it feels cool and airy, brushing the skin with a delicate touch. Light filters through it in soft beams, giving the sea a pearly glow. In this mist, time seems to slow. The world becomes simple, hushed, and beautifully unclear. Like being suspended in the softest part of a dream, the ocean surface reflects the sky like a vast blue mirror, smoothing every color into gentle gradients. When the weather is calm, the boundary between water and sky almost disappears, creating the illusion of a single, endless plain. Soft clouds drift across this mirrored world, their shapes stretched and softened by the rippling surface. Even small waves do not break the reflection. Instead, they fold it into shimmering patterns that move like silken fabric. Looking out at the sea on a still day feels like gazing into a peaceful echo of the heavens, blue on blue, quiet on quiet. The effect is grounding and expansive at the same time, reminding you of how closely the ocean listens to the sky above it, capturing every shade and whisper with gentle clarity. Ocean sunsets create bands of color that soften as they spread across the water. Hues of peach, rose, leona, and gold blend seamlessly into one another, reflected twice, once in the sky and again in the gentle waves below. Each ripple transforms the colors into moving ribbons of light, stretching them outward like brushstrokes on a calm canvas. As the sun lowers, the brightness fades slowly rather than abruptly, giving everything a warm, sleepy glow. The air cools, the wind softens, and birds make their final passes across the horizon. Watching a sunset over the ocean feels like witnessing the world exhale a long, serene release into evening, inviting your mind and breath to slow with it. The ocean at night may look dark, but its steady waves create a sense of reassurance and peace. Without city lights or loud noises, the sea becomes a soft, rhythmic presence in the darkness. Gentle waves roll onto shore with a consistent, calming pattern, each one dissolving into foam before folding back into the water. The sky above is vast and deep, often filled with stars that shimmer faintly on the black surface below. Even without the sun's glow, the sea feels safe, held together by predictable movement and ancient rhythm. The darkness is not threatening here. It is soothing, thick, and protective, like being wrapped in a quiet blanket while the ocean keeps watch nearby. Distant storm clouds over the ocean resemble pale ink strokes brushed lightly across the sky. From far away, the shapes are soft rather than sharp, rounded towers of grey and silver that rise like gentle sculptures. Lightning may flicker within them, but the light is often diffused by moisture, turning flashes into muted glows. The contrast between calm sea and distant storm creates a dreamy, watercolor effect, where dark and light blend seamlessly. The air carries a cool stillness, and the waves remain steady despite the show on the horizon. Watching such a distant storm feels like seeing a painting come to life, dramatic in appearance, yet somehow peaceful because of its softness and its safe distance. Clear skies over the ocean shine brighter than they do over land because there is nothing to dim or block the light. Sunbeams travel unobstructed across open water, reflecting off waves and creating a brilliance that feels pure and expansive. Even the air seems clearer, carrying light in soft, golden tones during the morning and cool, translucent blues during midday. Clouds appear whiter, shadows become gentler, and every color looks slightly washed in silver. At night, stars glow with unusual clarity, scattered across a wide dome that seems larger than anywhere else on Earth. This brightness feels quiet, not overwhelming, a peaceful clarity that invites long, slow breaths as you watch sky and sea merge into one softly glowing horizon. The ocean soothes the world to sleep with the steady rhythm of its waves, a pattern so ancient and gentle that it resembles a natural lullaby. Each wave rolls forward with soft intention, pauses for a breath, and then retreats with the quietness of a sigh. This repetition has no urgency. It continues through day and night, season after season, offering a comfort that feels familiar even if you've never stood by the shore. The sound carries across long distances, blending with the wind and fading into the horizon like a calming hum. Many people fall asleep more easily when they hear it, as though the waves lend their slow, predictable tempo to the human heartbeat. Listening to the ocean's rhythm is like resting beside a living companion who never tires, whose gentle breath never falters, and whose presence wraps you in deep safety. Seawater becomes slightly warmer at night as the sun's heat, absorbed throughout the day, rises from deeper layers and spreads slowly toward the surface. This warmth is subtle but soothing, creating a gentle cocoon of comfort around marine life. As air temperatures cool, the contrast makes the water feel even more welcoming, like slipping into a soft, warm bath. This nighttime warmth encourages calm movement. Fish glide more slowly, waves smooth themselves out, and surface ripples soften. In shallower areas, the warm water glows faintly under moonlight, creating a tranquil sensation as if the sea itself is settling into rest. The warmth is not intense. It is the kind of soft heat that calms muscles and quiets the mind, inviting everything within the ocean to slow down for the night. Many fish sleep tucked safely within coral reefs, choosing small crevices and sheltered corners where currents are minimal and predators rarely disturb them. Their breathing slows, their colors dim, and their movement becomes nearly still as they drift into a state of rest. Some species change to muted nighttime colors that blend gently with the reef, adding an extra layer of calm to their surroundings. Others hover just above the sand, barely moving. Supported by the quiet flow of water, the reef at night becomes a nursery of soft slumber, filled with tiny glowing eyes, slow pulses of bioluminescence, and delicate drifting particles. Watching fish settle into their coral homes reveals a peaceful truth, even in a world full of constant motion. Every creature finds a moment to pause, to breathe, and to surrender to the quiet. Coral reefs also have their own version of sleep, shifting into low activity states when the sun goes down. During daylight, corals bustle with microscopic life, vibrant colors, and busy exchanges of nutrients. But at night, their rhythm slows dramatically. Polyps withdraw slightly, metabolic processes soften, and the reef's bright daytime energy fades into a gentle stillness. Bioluminescent organisms may glow softly across the structures, creating a dreamlike shimmer that moves with the slow pulse of the water. Small currents trace along coral branches, brushing them like a soft nighttime breeze. The reef rests, just as animals do, renewing itself for the next sunlit cycle. In this nightly calm, the coral world becomes a sanctuary of deep peace, reminding us that even the most vibrant ecosystems need quiet moments to recharge. Nighttime at sea is quieter than almost anywhere else on Earth, with no cities, no engineers, and no crowds. The only sounds come from soft waves and distant winds. Even marine animals lower their activity, allowing the ocean to sink into a hush that feels almost sacred. The vast surface turns dark and smooth, reflecting only moonlight and stars. Below, creatures slow their movements, creating fewer disturbances. The deep sea grows even stiller, holding its silence like a great, calm chamber. This nighttime quiet has a blanket-like quality, thick, embracing, and deeply restful. Being near the ocean at night feels like being held by something ancient and gentle, a presence that asks nothing of you except to let go and breathe. Tiny marine organisms glow beneath the surface at night, sparkling like stars suspended in water. These microscopic creatures, plankton, algae, and drifting larvae, emit gentle pulses of blue light when the water around them stirs. Their glow is never harsh. It flickers softly, forming constellations that shift and swirl with the movements of the sea. Sometimes, a single wave can ignite thousands of tiny lights, making the shoreline twinkle as if the night sky has fallen into the ocean. This underwater starlight offers a sense of wonder and calm, reminding you that even the smallest forms of life contribute to the ocean's beauty. When you watch these tiny stars drift and shimmer, you feel as though the sea is breathing with you, slow, steady, and full of quiet magic. The scent of the ocean slows the mind, carrying hints of salt, seaweed, and distant wind. It isn't strong or overwhelming. Instead, it's a clean, subtle fragrance that opens the senses and encourages deeper breaths. Scientists have found that the compounds carried by sea air can naturally relax the body, lowering tension and encouraging clarity. Many people feel instantly calmer the moment they arrive at the coast, as if the ocean's smell carries centuries of peaceful memory. When breathed in slowly, this scent can quiet racing thoughts, unwind tight muscles, and guide the mind into a softer, more contemplative state. It is the planet's oldest aroma, familiar, simple, and deeply grounding. The color blue has a natural calming effect on the body, and the ocean surrounds you with an endless spectrum of it, pale near the shore, deep and velvety farther out. This color signals to the brain that it is safe to relax, encouraging slower heartbeats and softer breathing. The sea's blues blend with the sky's blues, forming a continuous soothing gradient that feels gentle on the eyes and comforting to the mind. Even underwater, light turns everything into muted shades of turquoise and cobalt, creating a tranquil world where edges blur and movements slow. Simply looking at the ocean can shift your body into a restful state, making it one of nature's most powerful sources of calm. The ocean connects all continents through its vast, gentle presence. No matter where you stand in the world, the waves touching your shore are part of the same ancient body of water, linking distant places with quiet unity. This connection is not loud or dramatic. It is steady, patient, and profoundly soothing. The sea binds ecosystems, carries stories, and transports life across great distances with slow, persistent currents. Knowing that every coastline is part of the same embrace can make the world feel smaller, kinder, and more harmonious. The ocean is a reminder that even when humans are separated by land and culture, they share the same soft-moving water that circles the globe. When you close your eyes, it feels as though you are floating in the ocean's arms, supported, rocked, and held with infinite gentleness. Its movements mirror the rhythm of breath, rising and falling in perfect harmony with the body's natural calm, imagining yourself drifting on warm, quiet waves can soften tension and guide the mind toward rest. The ocean does not judge or rush, it simply surrounds you with its vast, peaceful presence. In that imagined darkness, you become weightless, safe, and free, carried by a world that has cradled life for billions of years. It is one of the most comforting sensations you can experience, being held by something timeless and kind. And now, as these 100 gentle ocean truths settle softly inside your mind, you can allow everything within you to loosen the way a wave releases itself as it reaches the shore. The ocean has carried you from warm shallows to glowing reefs, from quiet depths to moonlit tides, and with each slow step, it has been guiding you toward this moment of stillness. You've listened to its rhythms, wandered its hidden landscapes, and rested in its ancient blue calm. And now, the sea invites you to drift just a little deeper into a place where thought softens, breath lengthens, and sleep rises quietly like the tide. Imagine yourself floating on warm water, supported without effort. Nothing pulls you down, nothing asks for your attention. You're simply held gently, securely by a world that has been here long before memory, long before stress, long before the rushing pace of your day. The water beneath you moves slowly, almost invisibly, lifting you with each inhale and lowering you with each exhale. It becomes a cradle, a soft rhythm that your body recognizes instinctively. Above you, the sky grows dim and wide. Clouds stretch into long, peaceful shapes. The last traces of color fade into blue-gray quiet, and the first stars begin to appear, each one reflected on the surface of the water in faint, shimmering ripples. Even the horizon blurs, creating a single gentle space where sky and sea seem to merge into one continuous calm. Let the air around you cool just slightly. Let your arms grow heavy in the best possible way. Let your mind slow, the way currents slow at night beneath the moon. There is nothing that needs your attention now. Nothing waiting, nothing unfinished. Everything can rest until morning. If a thought drifts in, let it drift out again like a small piece of sea foam carried away by a quiet tide. You don't need to follow it. You don't need to hold it. The ocean can take it from you, keeping it safe, letting it dissolve gently at its own pace. All you need to do is breathe. Listen to that breath now. In, rising like a soft swell. Out, retreating like a warm, pulling tide. Slowly, evenly, effortlessly. Feel your muscles sink deeper into the surface holding you. Feel your mind become lighter with every exhale. Feel your heartbeat settle into a slow, steady rhythm, almost matching the gentle, ancient pulse of the sea. Around you, nighttime settles fully. The water becomes darker, smoother, calmer. Far below, deep-sea creatures drift into their own versions of sleep, resting in soft currents. Near the reefs, small fish tuck themselves into coral hollows. Even the bright colors of the day fade into quiet blue shadows, letting the ocean rest. Everything in the sea sleeps in its own way. And now, it invites you to do the same. Let your eyelids grow heavier. Let the space behind them warm and darken. Feel the last bits of wakefulness begin to loosen, sliding away like sand, slipping beneath a wave. There is no need to resist, no need to stay above the surface. You're allowed to sink gently into rest. The water holds you, The night protects you, and the vast, ancient calm of the ocean wraps around you like soft arms closing into an embrace. You are safe here. You are supported. You are drifting slowly, peacefully into a sleep as deep and welcoming as the sea itself. So let go. Let the tide pull you inward. Let the quiet rise around you, and let the ocean carry you softly, endlessly, into sleep.